Hi everyone. In this video I'm going to show you how I used CRICUT Infusible Ink Pens with fabric to make this custom label. Before we get started in Design Space and cutting our project, I wanted to give you a list of the things you'll need to work with the infusible ink pens. You'll need your die cutting machine, of course, either the Explore series or a Maker. You need an Easy Press, 1 or 2. You'll be able to refer to the interactive guide on Cricut.com to get the correct settings for your Easy Press. You absolutely need laser copy paper. You cannot use these pens with regular printer paper for an inkjet. It has to be laser copy paper. You'll want a light grip mat so that it's easy to remove the paper. For the pens, there will be 2 different sizes. You have the fine point in 0.04. This black one is also fine point. And you have size 1, which is the marker size. I use these more for coloring in, and the fine point for drawing or writing. You'll want heat-resistant tape that's compatible with the infusible inks and this process. And last but not least, you'll need your Easy Press mat, and you want definitely to have white cardstock on hand to protect your mat. So let's go forward with this project and see how it's done in Design Space. I've written out the text that I want to put on my label, and I've added some stars that I want to color in with the infusible ink pens to make it more decorative. I'm going to place it on my square. In this case, I'm cutting out a 4-inch square of my laser paper so that it will fit perfectly over the label that I'm making. I'm going to select both together and go to Align and Center. Everything is nicely lined up, so we'll select it all again and attach. We'll go to Make It, and we're going to remember to mirror our image. Continue, and I'll choose my Cricut Maker. From Browse All Materials, I'm going to search for copy paper. We see copy paper 20 pound. I will select that and click Done. And we're all set and ready to go. So let's go ahead and write and cut our label. So I should have mentioned as I ran through the products that you need, you're also going to want butcher paper to protect your project while you're pressing it. So we'll just set that aside for now. We don't need it yet. I've placed my laser copy paper on a light grip mat. I'm going to add my infusible ink pen. This is the 0.4 fine tip that I'm going to use to draw this label. We'll add that to our machine, and we'll go ahead and load our mat. we're done. Remove the pen and cap it. I don't want my ink to dry out. And we'll close this up and push it out of the way. There we go. This is dry. No transfer to my hands. We'll remove it from our mat carefully. I'm going to color in my stars, and we don't want to be coloring with the paper on the mat, just to be sure that it doesn't transfer through. This has not gone through the laser copy paper, but we don't want to destroy a mat by getting ink all over it. So I'm going to take some scrap paper. It looks a little funny because it's mirrored. And we'll just color in the stars. This color is Cardinal. It's a nice bright red. I'm going to use this label on my grandson's quilt. And the back fabric is red and white stars. So I thought it would be cute to add some little stars to the label. I could have left them white, but for a little added whimsy, I'll color them in red. Okay, so you've seen how I'm doing that. I'm going to end this part of the video here, and I'll be back to show you the pressing stage. And we're ready to press. I have my transfer all set up. I've colored in the stars with my red infusible ink pen. I'm using the fabric swatch that comes in the container of transfer sheets because I'm only making a label, so this is all I need. My butcher paper, lint roller, and my easy press 2 set at 385 for 40 seconds. I also have CRICUT heat resistant tape. So the first thing we're going to do is make sure that we don't have any lint on our fabric. Anytime you're using fabric, you want to make sure that you lint roll it. You don't want any tiny particles at all on your fabric. We're going to cover it with butcher paper. And we're going to press it lightly for 15 seconds. Just to make sure it's not wrinkled. I was set for 40 seconds, so I'm just going to let it count down to 25. There we go. Perfectly pressed. And you want to let it cool completely. You want to remember that when you apply your transfer, if there's any heat, the ink will immediately start to absorb into the fabric. So you don't want to start that process while it's still hot. We'll just let it cool down. I'm using cardstock to protect my mat. This is CRICUT 80-pound cardstock. Still too hot? Okay, I think we're good to go. So we're just going to line up our transfer on top of the label. Once I put it down, I cannot move it. I'm going to take a little heat-resistant tape and tape it down to make sure it doesn't shift. There we go. Cover it with butcher paper, and we're going to press for 40 seconds. You can see that some of the ink has transferred to my butcher paper. We want to be sure that we always protect our mat because we wouldn't want it to transfer through onto our mat. We're going to let this cool down before we move anything. You don't want to, if I didn't mention, you don't want to reuse this butcher paper because this ink can transfer to your next project. So if you get ink on it, you definitely don't want to reuse it. I'm just going to cool this down. Still too hot. It says, handmade for Rowan with all my love, Grandma. And I'm going to be attaching it to the quilt that I made for him. And I love the idea that these infusible ink pens are permanent. So even when the quilt goes through the wash, we won't lose the label. Still hot. And I'm so impatient, I want to peek. But we know we can't. That feels good. Let's see. Pull this away carefully. And there's my label. Isn't it terrific? I love it. I'm going to back this with cotton and serge around the edge and add it to my quilt. So this is the same process you would be using if you were using the pens to add a graphic to a t-shirt. I'm using the same t-shirt fabric. This again is the sample that comes in the roll with the transfer sheets. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. Please like it and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thank you for watching.